Okay, good morning, everyone. Once again, welcome back to our morning coffee live stream. We have arrived at the end of September. Tomorrow begins October. So things are well, and we're almost at the end of our Vasa. And soon Ajahn Sudanto and Tanrakito will be leaving for Baigiri, and I'll become a true hermit. I'll be the only monk here for almost 3 weeks until Ajahn Chunda comes to join me towards the end of October. So I look forward to the solitude, but not so much to the extra daily chores. So I saw several questions early on in the chat, and I think I might go to questions right away this morning and see how many I can take care of. But the first question we had was, is meditation the main ingredient in Buddhism, or are there comparable benefits to intellectualizing Dhamma talks, observing precepts, etc.? So in short, I oftentimes find myself saying meditation lies at the heart of the Buddhist path of practice, but I wouldn't call it the main ingredient. And in fact, I would, if I had to guess, I would guess that the overwhelming majority of Buddhists in the world probably don't have a meditation practice or much of one. And that just isn't in later forms of Buddhism, but probably even in the Theravada world. So the Buddhist faith, the Buddhist religion, the Buddhist path of practice is quite broad and wide and addresses a lot of elements. For some, it's more an element of inspiration and faith, and they look to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha as an orienting spiritual guide for them in their lives. But I think your question speaks a little bit more to comparing and contrasting maybe the value of meditation in relationship to intellectualizing Dhamma. And there's some teachings in the suttas where the Buddha talks about the role of getting clear about what it is his teachings are and getting a conceptual understanding of that. In the language of the suttas, it's known as pariyatti Dhamma. And there's this nice little model of studying Dhamma, we could say, pariyatti Dhamma, practicing Dhamma, which is patipat in Thai, or patipat Dhamma, and realizing Dhamma, which I believe is Pativedhi, PPP. So practicing Dhamma, studying Dhamma, getting a good conceptual understanding of the Dhamma through listening to talks or reading and getting clear about what it is that the Buddha teaches, some of the essential sort of tools, the way the Buddha talks about the mind, the way the Buddha talks about how various qualities of heart and virtue and generosity sort of play into the cultivation of the Eightfold Path. There is a role for that. But to really drink deeply from the potential that exists in the Buddha's teachings. We need to take it beyond um, a mere rational, conceptual understanding of what the Buddha's teachings are. And I wouldn't diminish the benefit that can be had in just that understanding. Like if one has faith and one has a true kind of understanding in how it is that the Buddha sees the world and how it is that the Buddha sees uh, the challenge of a human life, how to live in the best way, a good way, in a way that minimizes harm and suffering. So like faith and understanding, clear understanding of Dhamma, that already can take one quite far. But I would say to take it deeper and to get the full effects, and to really go beyond it just being a worldview, one has to engage consciously and sincerely in tuning into one's own heart and mind and getting familiar with what's going on there in light of Dhamma, and make effort to engage with our conscious experience in a way where we're starting to understand in a more direct and personal way how it is that various negative and positive qualities of mind arise, the things that maintain them or nurture skillful and unskillful habits of mind, thought, emotion, speech, behavior. And knowing what it is that is effective in making wholesome change in our life, in our mind, in our moods, in our habits, in our actions, in our speech. And oftentimes the way we use the word meditation, it can be very kind of narrow, but it's standing in for this much broader engagement that we might call cultivation or our spiritual practice. And the foundation of that is having the willingness to be present to one's own experience and engaging with it. So noticing when unskillful or negative things are arising in one's heart, in one's consciousness, and not just observing them, but putting forth the effort to bring them to resolution. Noticing when skillful things are there and not just observing them, and enjoying the good fortune of feeling joy or feeling loving or feeling generous, but putting forth effort to nurture, sustain, deepen that. And then making choices and engaging with our life in a way where we're doing the things that we know or doing the things that we have faith, lay the conditions for a decrease in unskillful conditions and an increase in skillful conditions. So while sometimes that's maybe not thought of as meditation, but that ability to observe the mind like that and to be adjusting the mind, I think could rightly be included in meditation if we take meditation as a stand-in for this engagement that the Buddha encourages, this level of self-knowledge and mindfulness and awareness, and this engagement with our life that's a bit more clear, lucid, and profound than maybe we might otherwise engage in our life. I think of the common way of existing in the world as being a bit kind of heedless. We're only dimly aware of what's going on in us, and only in gaps or moments when we deem it sort of extraordinarily important, either because we want something, or we're fearing something, or we perceive a sense of danger that heightens the sense of being clear and aware of what it is that's going on, and engaging and making careful choices. And the life of a cultivator in Buddhism is to really deepen and heighten that, and try to grow the capacity to extend and mature our ability to be more and more conscious and aware and engaged in looking after the mind in a way that really deepens the ability for goodness, understanding, and freedom from suffering. And coming back to your question, is meditation the main ingredient? Part of the reason I would call it the heart of Buddhism is because the unique role that meditation or mental cultivation plays in taking us beyond a mere belief system. So like if we look at the teachings of right view, there's one level of view which is something that we take on out of faith, and it is a worldview, a religion, a belief system. And it accords with what the Buddha taught. But to reach a deeper, more profound view, which is truly transformative or truly liberating, that allows one to transcend the liability of suffering, the liability of dukkha, one needs to engage in a conscious, intentional cultivation of the mind. So I hope that answers your question, SGB. Follow up on yesterday's meditation question is meditation clearing the mind and not interacting with our thoughts? And thus reflection on the causes of thoughts and feelings should happen after meditation. Well, Eleanor, it's not quite so binary. I mean, because there are some forms of meditation where we're using thought in particular ways to resolve unskillful qualities of mind and develop skillful qualities of mind. But if we want to talk about serenity meditation or breath meditation or something like this, we're definitely trying to bring the energy of the mind away from discursive thinking and towards a wholehearted, connected, lucid, one might say silent engagement with the breath. And discursive thinking and excessive attention to discursive thought and feelings can be a distraction from developing that mind of serenity and clarity that the Buddha is encouraging us to develop for the sake of arousing a more profound sense of power or energy in the mind that couples with a clarity of mind that allows us to understand the mind in a more profound way than mere thinking can understand the mind. And to develop that serenity, I think one does need to make some sort of determination to deprioritize and withdraw attention from investigating or taking too much interest in the discursive mind. As well as like how we're feeling. I mean, we're really trying to kind of bring the mind to this simple and direct, powerful engagement with the object of our meditation. And that's the path to developing serenity of mind. And then that empowers us to do better reflection. Yesterday, I heard the question, is the body in consciousness or is consciousness in the body? I don't understand the question or why it's important. I can see it in both ways, I think. Well, Marilyn, I don't know that the Buddha never said that consciousness is in the body. And this whole reflection about the body being in consciousness is something I've heard many of my teachers, Ajahn Sudanto, Ajahn Sona, Ajahn Amro, various teachers, bring up in talks as a reflection, because the tendency for us is to, I think, assume that consciousness is in the body. And as we develop meditation and a reflection on what our conscious experience is, it can be a profound insight to realize that you only experience the body in consciousness. It's like without consciousness, you don't know the body. So in some sense, the body is in consciousness. And this has a neat little, that insight has a empowering message of freedom in how it is that we could change our relationship to others in the world. So we're, for whatever reason, our tendency is to think of people as bodies, and one of the primary foundations for the sense of self and other is attached to the body. But really, you only know that sort of as an object of consciousness, subjectively. And so, and that imaging that goes on in the mind, in consciousness, does not represent objective reality. It's not absolute truth. It's not ultimate truth. So, we only partially know others, even the people we know best, even ourself. We only know partially. And that's known in consciousness. So, in some sense, we are the creator of the sankharas that make up the world of the mind, of conscious experience. And because of that, there is there's a freedom and a latitude to sort of awaken to how it is that skillfulness and unskillfulness can play out in the way that we apprehend and perceive of beings, ourself and others. So, I think it's important to just kind of like point to this realization that our typical way of thinking about our experiences is a little backwards. We live in a very similar way. Out in the woods, I think it should read. It's beautiful and peaceful, but how do you keep from getting lonely or going cabin crazy, especially during the pandemic and the winter? Well, in short, I've been trained for that. My monastic life has been a training in learning how to enjoy solitude and enjoy the simplicity of spending time alone and living in simple environments. I don't think it comes natural to people. People can romanticize it, especially if they haven't found their limits and tested themselves. And it can be a dangerous thing to spend too much time alone. I don't, even for monks and nuns in the time of the Buddha, and even in modern times, teachers generally don't just casually encourage their students to go off and live in profound solitude until they've trained themselves and have a strong kind of foundation. And even then, it's best to test yourself and grow your capacity to being able to live um, with more solitude and simplicity, so that it's a skillful thing to be doing. My life is busy enough here at the Hermitage that even with a pandemic going on, there's still plenty to do, and taking care of the monastery and um, all of my various responsibilities, plus trying to keep up a daily meditation practice and chanting practice, and then study, and then maintaining some friendships and relationships with my family and my teachers and my monastic friends. So my life doesn't feel as lonely or as simple as I would often like it to. It's a lot more engaged than people would imagine. But I have had some profound periods of solitude throughout my monastic life, and I can be very happy to enjoy a profound sense of solitude and simplicity. But it's a skill that one has to kind of develop. Okay, well, I'm going to leave it at that for today, friends. I will see you all tomorrow for the 1st of October. Have a good day. Go forth with a sense of heedfulness and engaged with your conscious experience of life, minimizing calamities, all negativities, and in its place, doing good deeds and building the beautiful mind of serenity and insight. So I will see you tomorrow. Be well.